I mean, that's where I learned it was in
Yeah.
my.
I know what you're
hip-hop
saying.
class.
I know what you're saying. Oh, the hip hop. You had a hip hop class.
I did take a hip hop class.
Dang,
It
that
was the
sounds
history
cool.
of music in the US, and hip hop was a big part of it.
Huh.
It was like focused on like like African American and Black music. It was a very
Yeah.
cool class.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, that is interesting.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just looking for some free music real quick. YouTube Music Library. I can fold this stuff in later, but here's some free music right here.
I feel like if I put my hair around the
Can y'all hear
headphones-
that? Can y'all hear that?
No.
No, but I can hear you screaming at us.
Yeah. Sorry. Holy cow.
Can you hear me?
There is a way.
Share anything?
Yeah, that's what I was going to try to figure out. Can I share?
I still can't share, just so you know.
No, that's okay. I'll give you rights.
Don't worry about that, Tara. This is the most important part.
Don't mind that.
This intro is the most important thing. Rewind.
This is very serious music.
It is.
It is. Serious business we're discussing.
That's right.
Hot damn.
If I played baseball, I'd come up to bat to this.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, well, I got to find a fader, but hey, we're rolling. My name's Shayne. My name's Shayne Floyd.
I'm Lauren Holzer.
And Tara Pawlowski.
So glad we're all here.
This is the basement series.
We're getting organized on this basement series. I want to just kick us off by reminding everybody why we're doing this. We started this podcast to try to help our clients. We all work at a company called Blackbaud, and we have some amazing technology, and sometimes our clients kind of struggle to use it effectively. And so we said, let's try to help these people out. It turns out another purpose we have is to have fun. That's important for us. If we're not having fun, we're finding new jobs. So we love our company, and we actually love our jobs. So we're just keeping it fun and keeping it real. So those are two big purposes of our podcast. And also we just want you to get to know us as people. Blackbaud is a big company. We got a lot of processes and things, but we're also made up of human beings. We actually have sincerely have a culture of giving and philanthropy and community. So all those things are true, and that's we just want our audience to understand that. And we also want to somebody asked me to define our audience. Originally, I probably there were a handful of people: fundraisers, CFOs, database administrators. But we'll share the topics in the meeting notes or on the description of the video when we post it on the podcast, and it could be. Each time it could be a different audience, actually. But if you're in the nonprofit industry, that'd be a good start. If you're in the nonprofit industry, you might want to check us out. Sorry, guys, I'm hogging up all the talking over here.
That's all right. So today we have something special for you guys. Well, at least Shayne and I made Cosmos.
That's right.
Tara was a little lazy and just got a beer.
That's right.
I doubled up on the cranberry juice.
So cheers to everybody.
Cheers, everybody. This is part of us having fun. And I mentioned that we want to have fun. That's definitely a thing. But I wouldn't mind. I would really like it if today is June 4th. It's been a heavy week. It's been a heavy 3 or 4 months, but this has been a heavy week, and we don't want to ignore all the really big, important stuff that's going on in the world. I've been changed. My mind has been changed and opened up about a lot of things. And I'm thankful for that. And so I just didn't want to blow by all that big, heavy, important stuff that's been going on. It's not what this podcast is about, but we're about community and serving others. And there's a lot of sad stuff going on, but some amazing change is going on. I think that's my perception, and that's a good thing. So
yeah,
Hoping to see
definitely.
more.
yeah. I was thinking about how it might relate to what we're doing here and what we're talking about, and wondering about donor mindset in the situation like this. So there are a lot of organizations out there doing amazing work, an overwhelming number. So how do you pick? Well, this is the one I'm going to give to. This is the one I'm going to volunteer for and give my money and share, tell people about. It's hard. I have to admit, partly, I guess I see it as maybe an efficiency step is to find somebody that I trust and go, well, who are they endorsing? And it started getting me thinking about just the power of influence. I mean, if I went to Obama's website and he's saying these are good organizations, I'm pretty sure that guy's done his homework. His team has done their homework. And so, anyway, that's just sort of what's been on my mind. What about you guys?
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, I haven't honestly been thinking about that, but there are so many opportunities to help all kinds of organizations throughout COVID, and now really with all this change that we're seeing. And it's hard to choose where to give your money, and it's hard to choose who to back, really. And also when you think about donations, you can't, I guess I'm more in the boat. I'm going to put it all in one rather than distribute across many. I mean, I distribute across many causes, but I sort of choose one per cause.
Yeah.
And it's honestly true. I was thinking about this, Shayne, in town. Shayne and I live in Charleston, and I was thinking about animal welfare. I think I have kind of all put it in one boat, but now I'm starting to think like I should probably diversify my funding across, different organizations in town. I don't know. I totally agree with you, though. I look at what my friends are doing and people that I trust, and also influential people in the community, and make an informed decision based on that. But sometimes it's really who got to you first, too.
Yeah.
Like who emailed you, who was across your Instagram feed, and that's where you start putting your money, and that might be where you continue to put your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me and my husband, one of the things that kind of is brought to light, especially with COVID and other things that are going on, is just who is in your direct community and who is immediately affected by some of this, and kind of how can you support those people, after everything goes down and we're forced to be home. Granted, I work from my basement all the time, but with everyone being home now, it just kind of resets those priorities of like, what is that greatest need? And I think for us, we found local to our neighborhood type of organizations that we can give to, specifically with the Giving Tuesday Now that just happened. And so a big motivator of that was like who literally needed that money yesterday, based on the factors that are happening. Well, and I guess that kind of leads to the story where, we're talking about donor designation, but also keeping those donors around and kind of that communication with them. And so through this whole experience and kind of giving more recently we did 3 organizations. You get your acknowledgement letters. They tell you what that money's going for, how you help serve the community, which at the end of the day, we all do it because we want to feel good too. We want to feel like we're a part of that. But one organization in particular, which thou shalt not name, I purposely and purposefully gave to, the COVID response fund. That was one of the options on the website. And granted, they had other needs. I think a lot of folks are obviously driving to that, and hey, wherever we need it, we're going to put it. Their acknowledgement letter, or their, I guess, email receipt, did not line up with what I actually gave to.
Yikes.
They mentioned, oh, it's going to be for this and that, which also sounds great, but it was not in line with what I initially gave. So I feel like part of the conversation that we're going to have today is around the impression that you leave your donors too. As much as how we reach out to them and connect with them, how do we keep them? And that acknowledgement letter may be some of that first like one-on-one contact where they're committed. Are they going to stay committed, sort of thing? So I'm sure we've all seen something along those lines where we just don't feel like those funds were, used exactly how we intended necessarily.
Yeah. Stewardship is a big, huge part of retention. And it's the first interaction after that gift is made that makes the most difference.
Mm-hmm. That was a great example too. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
running a tight ship. You see that and you're like, I don't think they're running a tight ship.
Yeah.
Well,
so they might be. It could be a simple error. It could be, who knows, 100 reasons. But
and I think being a Black Bot employee, but also a previous client, like living in the nonprofit space, I know what it takes to align that. I know how easily it can get off track. So, I don't want to, never give to them again for a minor mistake, but it definitely leaves an impression, and some people might not be as understanding.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
It's funny how actually your point of view as a Blackbaud client using these tools, and also as an employee and expert on the tools, it was both sides of the coin. It raised your awareness and paying attention to that level of detail. It also raised your level of grace and understanding of, man,
100%.
it's not hard for these things these mistakes to happen.
I mean, you're doing 7 different things in your role. Something's going to drop, and it happened to me plenty of times.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's jump on in. I guess it's, I'm looking at my list to make sure. Yeah. Let's jump on in. We're going to talk about coding in Razor's Edge, kind of the structure, why it's important to capture data in a specific way so you can thank donors appropriately. You can report and see what's working and what's not working. If you've got a specific goal you're trying to achieve for a program, it's important to put those dollars in the right bucket. So lots of different reasons. And Tara's kind of going to jump in and take the lead on our discussion on this today, I think, get us started.
Yeah. So can y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. So where I want to come from is more of the fundraising structure that kind of lives around those gift records. Again, it's part of that donor designation and where that money's going at the end of the day. And in Razor's Edge NXT, you've really got 4 layers, but I'd say 3 that are most common that folks are using is that campaign, fund, and appeal. Now, when I was a trainer, I used to draw on the board when we could all be in person and see people, have my nice little umbrella of the campaign. So think of the campaign as kind of the overarching reason why you're raising money. So it could be, we've got a capital campaign and we're physically building a building, whether it's a library or a hospital or another location on campus, where there's a very specific need for that, where some organizations may be large and have many different campaigns going on throughout the year and be targeting different groups of people with that. Where I sure know when I was still working at the school, we had an annual campaign. That capital campaign happened probably 8 years before I even came on board, and there wasn't really another one in sight. So it's not a matter of, well, how many campaigns can I create, but using the functionality to what makes the most sense for you. Because at the end of the day, it's all about that end goal and reporting. And you're going to set this up the way you want to report out that information. The next layer, so again, we've got our nice little umbrella. The fund is where the actual rain falls into those buckets. Where is that money going to be used? And so when we think about the fund, that's a lot of time what the accounting folks want to know as well. Where's that money landing at the day? And is it unrestricted? And we're going to use it where it's that greatest need. And I think that's a lot of what's happening now, especially during COVID. But then you have, very restricted if it's to particular scholarships, or I'm only going to support you if I'm giving to this particular program and I can see my dollars go to that particular program. So being able to kind of break up these layers for reporting purposes and also get a better idea of how folks are giving. Okay, so we've seen the overarching kind of goal. We've talked about where that money's kind of landing. The appeal is the means of solicitation. How are you reaching out? How are you communicating? How are you soliciting for those funds? It doesn't always have to be about an ask either. Maybe it's an event that they attended and they just happen to give while they're there. So it doesn't have to correlate to that direct ask, but that appeal tells us so much. Good example, where I used to work, we had a biannual auction because Lord knows no one wants to run those once a year.
Biannual?
Like every other year.
Oh, okay. I was
Oh,
thinking,
gotcha.
Yeah.
2 times a year, and I was like,
That's
that
terrible.
makes me want to drink.
Yeah. Drink for anyone who actually has to do that. Okay. So those appeals there are so many avenues of how people can give at that event, at that auction, whether it was live auction, whether it was silent auction, whether it was, they just gave for the raffle. They wanted that bright blinky light that they could stand up and play the game with. And so the appeal really gives you some detail. And at the end of the day, whatever makes sense for your organization, it doesn't have to be a lot, but having these different layers is what's going to take us to the reporting functionality, where at that campaign, fund, or appeal level, I can break down any of that information. And again, everything's out of the box. So if I want to look at, well, how are we performing at these different buckets of where is our money going? If I want to break it down by how are those funds that fall under that umbrella, I want to break it down at these different layers, these different levels. And so if I'm concerned with, maybe we have an event campaign, I'm an event coordinator, an event director, and all I worry about is the events. If I want to run my report at that campaign level, I've got everything I need. If I need more detail, I can break it down at that fund level. If I need to know all these events in all these different ways, I can break it down at that appeal level as well. So I think it gives you a lot of flexibility. Fund is the only thing that's required. And I see a lot of organizations simply using that fund. I used to just use that fund until my director kept asking me questions. And I was like, wait a minute, I think I can work with this. And therefore, roll it up, synthesize it, or get all that detail that you want.
Yeah, like a good appeal example might be if you do a spring mailing and an end of year mailing. That could be your appeal. You could break it out that way. Or as you mentioned, the events, like, what was that example we were talking about the other day where someone gave to a specific purpose, a specific fund, but they actually gave through an event? Like that could be also another thought that you could put into your appeals. It is important to be able to break some of that out, because then you know where to spend your money next time. If you can break out what appeal was more successful than another, and if someone says, let's think how we're doing our annual mailing, well, our spring appeal really wasn't very successful, but there's no way to know that if you don't track your appeal. So that's
don't
where
waste your time and money if you're not making money off of it.
That's right. Exactly. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's really important to think about this. Hey, Tara, I want to ask you, I should know the answer to this, but you probably know better. What would you say, like from a best practices standpoint, should you do about the year? Because I see a lot of organizations that will do something like Annual Fund 2017 or something. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the different layers, it's a matter of, the annual fund is going to be there every single year. If that's something that's always around, you're just going to end up with 50 funds at the end of the day, depending on how, long into the future you run, where you can have that annual fund because that's there. Maybe that campaign is for 2020, 2021 at that campaign level, but your funds remain the same, where you're not having to create a new fund every single year.
True.
I think to your point, Lauren, just thinking best practices, keep in mind, you can inactivate these campaigns, funds, and appeals. So you can always run reports to say, hey, I want to see what we did back 77 when we were founded, and whatever else is going on, the information's still there. But when I'm adding in gift information, I don't have to look at that. I don't have to see this 25 years of information that we've been tracking. I can see what's current. And I think that's another layer of just making sure you're making the most out of the system. You don't have to be bogged down with everything you've done in life.
Well, something that's also interesting, I'm sorry if you did mention this, but I missed it, the category. Like, isn't there a fund category? Yep. Something in Razor's Edge NXT that has a little more power than I would say in 7 is the category, because the fund category is actually a filter. So that's another layer of just giving you flexibility in your reporting that you could consider. An appeal category example, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, but might be like mailings, right? Like that could be a category. And so that could help you filter out these dashboards to show you exactly what you want. It's a very underutilized piece of Razor's Edge, but I do think that there are opportunities in NXT to get even more into these categories and get better reporting out of it.
And I think with the dashboards, they make those fields, I won't say more useful, but more user-friendly to access.
Yes.
Where before you had to think harder. Yeah. There's so many more layers to it. And now it's like, oh, it's right there. Yeah, let me roll that up a little bit.
Well, and it's cool if you did, like, let's say you did do an appeal category, you could compare those by applying that filter, and then you're only comparing that category specifically. So
exactly.
It's just a whole nother layer of being able to report. And if I hear anything from anybody, it is we don't have the ability to report the way we want to report. And I think a lot of it has to come down to how are you categorizing your campaigns, funds, and appeals, and are you using these categories to be able to pull the information you want? And that's what it boils down to.
I'm glad you pointed that out. And the example you gave is a good one. If you want to look at all the mailings, all the mailing appeals, you're not looking at those necessarily side by side with all the events. Event revenue that's one type of appeal. You might have multiple events within that category, right? And multiple mailings within a year that would be in the mailing category.
Right.
So you can group them up together. It's a perfect example.
It kind of gives you another layer of flexibility, but you have the solid campaign fund and appeal right there.
Yeah.
And I think the visuals too, because if we think about, well, these are the appeals that we ran for our fund. Well, these seem like they're pretty successful. Maybe not so much on some of these other areas. Yeah. So again, you kind of see the trends and the habits that your donors pick up and what they're responsive to. And don't waste all that printing and postage if it's not bringing in enough money to cover the cost.
Yep, exactly.
When I first started at Blackbaud, I was part of the financial edge team. And that's my mindset, even in this Razor's Edge discussion, is always about the accounting side and how they might use the data. And of course, we talked about this the other day, clients, when you put the development office folks in a room with the finance, it's amazing how differently they see things. Yep. You're looking at the same transaction or the same set of dollars, but they have a completely different point of view. And I, tend to sort of oversimplify things in general, but when I think of the Razor's Edge Fund, I'm thinking of how does the donor want us to use that money? The ideal scenario is the donor gives you money and they say, do whatever you need to do with it. I believe in you guys, and just, where needed. But some people say, I want this money to be used specifically for the new building. In my case, I work with animal shelters. We've got a new animal shelter facility that we're building, and I'm giving you X amount of dollars to use specifically for that. And so I always think of the Razor's Edge Fund as being like the donor designation, because when it hits that fund record, it can be tied behind the scenes, tied out to the general ledger debits and credits, and there's a debit and credit for, you're going to debit cash and credit revenue. And if you've got pledges, those are treated, they've got a different set of accounts versus cash versus a pledge payment, things like that. It hits all the right accounts, but the fund record is sort of
it's the connector.
It's a connector of what gets all that data mapped to the right place for the accounting people to use it and spend it on the building fund, spend it in the right place. So that's why it's important on their side. And
it's like the translation. I think that there's a sometimes misconception between accounting and fundraising. They feel like they're not speaking the same language, but the fund is where you can tie your language together. I think that's what where your development teams really struggle and where your accounting teams really struggle, but that's where you're going to see the most benefit of reconciliation. I'll tell you, I struggled. I definitely struggled. I am not accounting minded. And I mean, honestly, sometimes our accounting data looked different than what was in Razor's Edge, really mainly because they were coding it differently. And that's because I didn't have my fund set up right. Or correctly. So I think it's something really important to think about. And it's also a conversation you can have with your accounting department. Yeah. I think this is the time, right? I mean, we have probably more funds coming in for different reasons. I think our donor base in general is getting a little more specific about what they want their gifts to go to, this is a time to have these conversations and change your structure and be able to get it where you need it to be so you can reconcile more appropriately. And then it provides transparency.
And I was just going to, add, it's all about getting on the same page. Like terminology is definitely different on each side of the house, and just simply having those conversations and figuring where you can connect the dots, if you will, just streamlines the process for both sides. Just understanding what are the needs here, what are the needs there, and what do we translate? You keep all that, you keep all that over there. We've got what we need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want us to spend more time on this. This is a big topic. It's, we're getting down into the weeds. It's a little bit on the nerdy side of fundraising and technology.
That's the fun part.
But it's fun. I absolutely love it.
I'm unabashedly a nerd, you know? I've accepted that I'm a nerd and I'm weird.
That's great. I love it. Well, we're going to do more sessions on this, and we're going to have a consultant here we've talked to about joining us. We're going to have some clients give us their perspective on it. We'll do another session on campaigns, funds, and appeals. And it's really, it's about coding and reporting and donor stewardship. It encompasses so many different topics in this thing. I don't want to cut it short, but we have kind of scratched the surface. We spent a good half hour.
Yeah, we'll definitely pick this up.
Trying to get started with our equipment again today.
Well, I do want to talk about one thing real quick.
Yeah.
So I saw this thing on, maybe it was TV, I don't know, about Officemates and like who your office mates are now. Like now that everybody's working from home, like Tara, your husband's at home all the time. Shayne, I know your daughters are around.
Yes, he is.
I'm pretty sure my office mate is at the door about to bark. Like I just heard her kind of tiptoeing up here. I have several office mates. I have 2 dogs, a baby, and a husband. So it's a revolving office mate situation.
Yeah.
But I also have a special guest office mate. This, hello, is the Olaf that my daughter and husband made while I was on a call.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Now I have Olaf hanging with me, so I have someone with me all the time.
Is that on your pillowcase, and is that washable?
It is. It is paper clips like scotch taped on there. It's actually very creative. I'm really impressed with it.
I love it.
That arts and crafts hour really goes a long way.
Yeah, I know. So my husband is not working right now, so he has my daughter most of the day. And, every parent has like their own things, and crafts are not Adam's, and crafts are honestly not really mine, but I guess more in my wheelhouse. So that's Adam's attempt at a craft. And you know what? I think he did a good job. A+ on that.
Yes, I give him an A+. It's funny, on our last episode, you referred to painting stuff as a craft, and Tara and I were like, no, that's not a craft. But the pillow, that was a craft. I think that's a legitimate craft.
Yeah, that's a legitimate craft. Yeah. We're also going to work on a herb garden, I think, Cece and I. So that's our next thing. That's not a craft, I guess. That's gardening.
I mean, you can make a whole pillow family, or the whole Frozen theme.
The whole
Frozen theme.
I think that's probably what we need to do. We have Frozen fever in this house, y'all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Has Zuzu watched it?
So my little one has watched it. I'll say when we tried to watch 2, she really wasn't into it anymore. And I am thankful that she started back at daycare not too long ago. So now I'm down to one other housemate or one other coworker on a regular basis. But
office mate,
at least he doesn't beat on my door and scream my name half the day.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Hilarious.
Are your daughters there, Shayne?
Caroline is here. Cameron took off this afternoon. It's been
Caroline
great.
A good office mate?
She's very quiet. She minds her business until she gets hungry, and then she comes in here, pots and pans. Yeah,
that's usually what sends them in.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, it's all good. It's funny though.
Well, I'm going to work on my microphone and get this thing working. I honestly don't even know if you guys hear me. It sounds like you're hearing me, but
we hear you just fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got
my little green light box is not coming up.
I got my sweet mic.
Oh yeah.
I love that. I want you to start recording records with that.
Yeah,
we need to write you some music.
I should start yeah, exactly. I should.
I
Start
mean, you can
record
fill in the headphones and sing into the mic.
I'll
Be
tell you
Mariah
what.
Carey over there.
Oh yeah, Mariah Carey. Exactly.
I've always told my husband Adam that he should do like a jingle business. He will take any jingle and just make it his own. And half the time they're about potty language, like poo poo and stuff. But it's good. It's good stuff.
I mean, he can write
it's like
little
jingle parodies. That's what it would be. Jingle parodies.
I like it. It keeps the kids entertained. That's for sure.
Exactly. Keeps Adam and I entertained. That's for sure.
We definitely had several songs. I mean, I guess we still do that we sang to Susanna. And it's like, we should do a children's album. But then you think of, your songs last like 20 seconds. And you're like, yeah, I just don't know if it'll stick.
I don't know that we have enough.
Right?
Doesn't take much.
No, that's true.
We can test some out here on the podcast, see what the crowd thinks.
See what the crowd thinks.
Good idea. That could be our intro music next time.
All right, send them to me in advance.
So sorry. Speaking of kids, one other thing that I thought was funny. The other day we were like, she was in a terrible mood, and we were just like trying to lighten it up, and we said, Cece, guess what? And she stood there. I said, guess what? And she said, what? I said, chicken butt. And she thought it was so funny.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
This is why you need kids, to pull those oldies but goodies.
Right.
I mean, we're laughing about it, so it's not just. It's like, oh yeah, that was good. 6th, 7th grade, gotcha.
Was she confused when she saw you laughing? So therefore,
yeah, because we started laughing, she thought it was funny. So now she thinks it's funny, but yeah. Yeah, that's good.
She's got that sense of humor.
I know. What do y'all got going on this weekend?
Little music Friday night. More music.
Are you streaming? Any chance you're streaming?
I'll stream you. I'll FaceTime you. I'll be there.
Sweet.
Lauren will stream direct to Chicago.
Love it.
That's the only thing I've got on my radar, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's at Common House, Tara.
That's your joint, isn't it? That's
the
neighborhood place.
So I
like that place.
Card.
Mm-hmm.
I like those picnic tables.
I know.
Yeah, we hit phase 3 of reopening here in Chicago yesterday. I don't know if we'll venture out quite yet. We'll see.
What does that mean?
As far as so restaurants have opened.
Oh.
So it's not just pickup and delivery and stuff like that now, and mostly outdoor seating because, it only took 6 months of the year to actually get spring, summer weather around here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, may check out, see what's going on.
Yeah.
See how folks are living these days.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the outdoor seating I'm okay with. I don't know about inside yet. I'm on the fence there.
Right. You got your Friday night plans, Lauren. What are y'all doing the rest of the weekend?
We were trying to go to the beach. We actually had plans 2 days for beach with friends, because we're outside. We'll be far enough apart, but I'm not sure if we can do that because it'll be raining. So
that's right.
We might watch Frozen 2. I mean, we had some big
again and again and again.
Oh God.
Yeah,
yes.
That's all right. What do you got going on, Shayne?
Nothing. That's it. I think that's it. I'd look at my calendar, but I think just the Friday night thing is it.
Yeah.
That'll be fun though.
Oh yeah.
Are you excited to play again in Common? I mean, I'm excited.
I was gonna say it's been a while. Of course,
right? It's been a long time. We've been playing a little bit though lately. Well, we had like this TV show that wanted us to do like a spotlight thing. So we all got together yesterday and we played.
Oh, that's cool.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. And I'll see if it airs tomorrow. I'll send it over to you.
What TV show?
Channel 24, I think. And it's like a local thing
Shayne's
where they do
famous.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it's big time. So now one of my
I'll
bandmates
Google and try to find it on the interwebs.
Yeah.
One of my bandmates is moving back to her home state of Colorado. So that's our Friday will be our last gig for a while. And then I have my other band, but we'll do the other.
Are you going to
other
replace her?
No, there's no plans to.
Yeah.
I mean
Lauren, you looking to be a lead singer?
Oh, is that what you asked? Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I don't think I could be in Shayne's band. I think Shayne's too serious for me.
No way. You need to learn the banjo though.
Yeah, I can't play the banjo. I'm out.
Banjos. You got to at least sit and hold it. You got to look.
I could hold
You
it.
gotta hold it.
I could hold it. And
Is that all you do, Shayne? You just hold it?
Well, no, I don't. I'm not the banjo person. Claire is. Claire's leaving town with her banjo.
Got it. So new banjo player, putting it out there, if anyone's interested.
Anybody watching this podcast?
Yeah, anybody watching the podcast, if you're a banjo player in the Charleston area that can sing well, and probably a female voice.
But
I could be the female voice. We just need a banjo player.
There you go.
That's right. We just need the banjo player. That's it. We're rolling.
I love it.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, y'all.
Okay,
See you
guys.
again soon.
All right.
Until next week.
Love you guys.
Bye. Love y'all too.
Love y'all.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.